Welcome back, folks. Episode number 12 of the Get a Grip on Life podcast. On today's show, we have Joshua Murray and Trish Cassling. They're two pretty cool cats. What do they do? Well, Trish takes pictures of music stars, bands, and goes to different events, takes snapping photos. Josh writes about it. Their website is called thereviewsarein.com. Thereviewsarein.com. I don't have to spell it because it's pretty easy to spell. So go to thereviewsarein.com to check out what they do. They're at all the shows and they write about music, take pictures. Pretty cool people. Hey, this is episode 12 of Get a Grip on Life, and I'm in Get a Grip Studios here in Toronto. Go to getagripstudios.com. What we really love you to do is go to iTunes and review our show. Rate it. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. iTunes. That's right. On the Apple website. You all know it's out there. If you got a phone, you can do it on a PC. Please send us a review. We would love it. But for right now, enjoy Joshua Murray and Trish Cassling on episode 12 of the Get a Grip on Life podcast. Welcome to the show, Trish and Josh.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
So you guys are the owners of thereviewsarein.com.
Yes.
You started it in 2007 as a lifestyle kind of information site. What was it?
Yeah, it was more just a catch-all. I've been writing for years, doing all kinds of things, and as the internet kind of grew, even at that point with people running blogs, I decided to give it a go, and it was politics and news and sports and things I liked about TV shows and comic books, and then music became a more and more and more until we ended up transitioning almost in full about 8 years ago, but more in the last 7 years, it's been really exclusive to entertainment, or at least being able to draw a line to entertainment in everything that we do.
So sometimes we'll do a link between music and sports, but everything has to come back to music.
So it's interesting because I often talk about in entrepreneurship finding a seam. So you start out throwing as much shit on the wall as you can, hoping some sticks, and then all of a sudden you notice that something is sticking. Do you guys, is this your full-time jobs?
It is mine for almost a year.
Okay.
With some other things small on the side,
right.
But I was at an advertising agency for a few years before, and then made the jump.
Made the jump.
So
you're doing this part-time.
I was doing it after hours and on weekends and taking vacation days to cover festivals and concerts for 7 years.
Wow.
Between a few different jobs that I had at the time or over that time, and then decided to give it a go.
Isn't it crazy? The entrepreneur's story is so similar. It just, you change the subject matter and everybody kind of does the same thing. Taking the jump, when did you decide, you know what, I'm just going to do it full time? How did that decision come about?
Well, I started having discussions with Trish about it, I guess, last spring, really on a serious side and at home with my girlfriend and trying to decide what was going to work best for us. And it was get through the summer at my office job, do the summer festival season, knowing that I had vacation time available and I could just do the regular schedule like I always did.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was October 1st. Last year was my first day at home. Working on things and just waking up and knowing that it was all right, let's create some content.
Where does your revenue come from? Is it primarily advertising?
Advertising and brand partnerships.
Okay.
Yeah.
So brand partnerships with what kind of companies?
We've worked with some apparel companies.
Okay.
We've worked with Woodbine Entertainment recently on the Queen's Plate Festival.
Wow. Okay.
So some stuff with them. We've done some work with a couple different music management companies. So working with them to increase their reach and them looking for new artists to bring on. So all kind of in our goal when we look for brand partnerships and any advertisers is how does their community cross over with a music community?
Mm-hmm.
And what we found was music's a really great center that in a Venn diagram, there's crossover with almost every kind of brand. So if someone sells jeans,
they want to be associated with music.
You can find the music. Like Wrangler is the most country rodeo brand of jeans there is.
Totally.
So if you're looking for country music, Wrangler jeans fits with country music on some scale at some place.
Yeah, I totally see that.
Yeah.
How did Trish get involved?
Josh sort of brought me on. He had done a Boots and Hearts festival in a previous year. He tagged along with a friend and had media creds. And we went back the next year together, and it was my first festival shooting as a photographer. I'd pretty much had a camera in my hand for about 3 months. I'd done a blogging trip and learned how to use the camera on that trip, and really was just thrown in the deep end. And it was amazing, and I haven't looked back.
So you guys are business partners now, or are you an employee?
Business
Yeah,
partners.
Oh, business partners. Okay. So you got thrown in the deep end, and how, so you take care of, I guess, photographic content for the site?
A good portion of the photographic content, but there's a lot of back-end stuff that I've been responsible for. I also did a year full-time at the site, but we weren't quite at the sales point. We spend a lot of time working sales now, but back then it was all back-end stuff and making sure that our SEO stuff was in place and that the site flowed smoothly. And it was a tough call for me to go back to work. And you say, like, you're doing this part-time, but you're really doing 2 full-time jobs. So
you have a part-time job and this?
Correct. And I just cut back. I have a client who I do marketing consulting, and I've just pulled back to 20 hours, and they were not happy about it, but it's summer and I need to be out there.
Yeah, at the festivals and all that. Wow. What kind of metrics do you guys look for on your site in order to drive advertising?
We're looking at page views is still number one as far as how many eyes are we getting on the site and how many eyes are we getting on individual posts and pieces. And from that, we can look at how our community is responding to the different genres of music that we're covering, or even specific artists, whether they be Canadian or international. Or we've followed some artists from before they had a single to now where they're award winners. And we can see the progression of coming in early and now how much more of a community and how much more of a fan base is responding to content about those artists as their journey has gone the same kind of way ours has.
Right. Okay, so what kind of page views do you guys get?
We're looking at getting to 200,000 total for this year. Different months go at different rates depending on what's going on. For a long time, things were slow from about October until March.
Okay.
Things have changed in the music industry a little bit with touring schedules and album releases to where those months have seemed busier and busier for bigger artists, which means that we have more content to create freely and on topic, which has helped boost traffic through all months. And then we see our peaks through the summer with festivals and the big outdoor concert season and everything that way.
Do you have music available on the site?
We have some playlists that we've created on Spotify that we share in a lot of our posts.
Okay.
We create a lot of posts that share music. So we have a series called the New Music Spotlight, which almost on a weekly basis, we go through and highlight 5 or more new singles or music videos that have been released by major label artists, indie artists, people that we've met and known over the years, or even that our contacts in public relations have sent to us that we get to take a look at, but we always do the vetting and we choose what music ends up on the site.
Do you love doing this?
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. I can feel that from you guys. You're pretty passionate about it. Where do you guys live?
I live in Parkdale. Josh used to live in Parkdale, but...
Yeah, now I'm in Pickering. So we're kind of spread out. We're still GTA, but for what started was both of us in different parts of Parkdale and Toronto to now a little bit more spread out.
What's the most stressful thing about this business for you? What's the negative side of it? And just like, what is it that you do worry about it a lot?
I mean, it's the entrepreneurial worry of, is this thing going to float or sink? We're always looking at like our own benchmarks of, are we making this much in sales and sponsorships? Are we creating good enough content? Are we creating new relationships? Are we seeing growth in our communities, whether they're on social media or just in people that we know on the back end industry side of things?
So you're looking at it like, okay, what's next kind of thing. What's your take on that? What do you worry about most with this? And then we're going to get to some positive things, don't worry.
Okay, I don't really feel like I would worry about failure. I feel like we're pretty much on a continual up. And as long as we're...
Like that sound, all the lines go up.
Yeah, and as long as we're still having fun...
Yeah, ride it.
That's, I mean, I was a little bit concerned when Josh and his partner announced they were having a baby, that things were going to change. And there have been some small changes.
Is the baby born?
The baby's born and he's awesome.
How old is he?
He was 3 months old last Sunday.
Okay, you getting lots of sleep there, buddy?
I'm still doing okay. He's really good. He's really good.
Yeah,
But there's lots of coffee in the morning.
I bet.
Well, he's also got a really supportive partner, and he's a great baby to travel with. So we haven't really run into that much trouble with it. And we're still getting out to the festivals that we need to. And I may be covering a few more Toronto shows on my own, but it's not a negative at all.
Cool. So what's the thing that you love most about doing this?
I personally love the new music. I love indie artists. I love seeing the growth. I love finding a band and feeling like I love this, and like I don't feel like I could do A&R at a record label, but I know what I like when I hear it, even when it's new.
What's A&R?
So it's research and finding new acts
Okay, yeah.
for the label. But I have some like great examples where you run into a show and you're covering somebody else, and then you see an opening band that you had no idea about, and they're amazing. And the next thing you know, they're blowing up, and they're on tour with Coheed and Cambria, Crownlands.
Okay. You know what's funny to me? I'm not obviously not as big a music lover as you guys are, but you know what? I'm in the Toronto scene. Maybe I'm just out of it or whatever. But all I get is cover bands, man. And it's like, when is someone going to put out some new music? I kind of feel that vibe a little bit. And even and you listen to the radio, and I'm not hating on anybody specifically, but I can't stand the music that you hear, top 40 stuff that comes out. A lot of it sounds the same. A lot of it, is produced with a computer. There's no band, there's no vibe, there's no hair, whatever it is that, I'm looking back to, my favorite bands would be Guns N' Roses and that kind of, not the full hair band, and then into the grunge era. There was a vibe there. There was something that was going on. There was a movement. Is that happening now?
It's happening. You need to check out Crownlands. Definitely.
What's Crownlands? What's that?
Crownlands is a rock band. It's a two-piece.
Are they Canadian?
They are Canadian. They're like out of Oshawa. Is that right? And
two-piece?
Two-piece. And they sound like five.
And they write their own music.
They write their own music, and it's got an old school 70s, 80s rock feel. They're influenced by Rush and Zeppelin, and you can hear it, but it's fresh and it's new.
Right.
And they're on their way up.
Really? Who's the most famous person you guys know?
It's hard to say, because it's almost become a thing where the fame part becomes subjective. There are some artists that we know that have hundreds of thousands of fans or are selling out concerts all over the country, but they are the most down-to-earth people that you get to like just share a message with back and forth once in a while, or like talk about their kids and their family.
Sure.
In the country world, we've been really fortunate on the Canadian side to make some really great contacts and kind of become pals in passing, where you can say hi and how are your kids, and
it's not weird,
and how's life, and it's not weird to get a handshake and a hug, or get a handshake and a hug and forget that you have an interview scheduled for half an hour later. So you start talking to them and you're like, okay, wait, we should probably do this later.
Like you know what exactly what I'm talking about.
Right? And then their PR person pulls them away and you can talk to Josh later.
Yeah.
You've got somebody else right now. We'll come back and see them.
That's always good when you have that, when the relationship's legitimate. Like, you don't feel like an outsider. You feel like an insider, that they trust you and they can share stuff with you that you're not going to put on the site.
That's
absolutely
one of the biggest things about what we do, and we do interviews. And because for a long time, and we've started to do more audio and visual, but for a long time, one of our biggest thing has been long form written, and be able to talk to somebody and not worry about it being a transcript, but it being about a story. What's the artist's story that they want to tell us? And part of it is earning their trust, sitting down and talking about something and understanding that we're never going to print something that's not part of the relevant story for them. And sometimes things are very relevant that aren't music related.
Right.
But my rule has always been, I know my mom reads everything that we put up there.
Sure.
And if I wouldn't want your mom to read what I just wrote about you,
sure,
I'm not going to put it up there. So we can joke and we can tell stories.
But that doesn't make you a sellout, though, I feel like. I feel like that makes you a trusted insider in the business.
Yeah, because it's going to create better relationships and better content later.
Sure.
Through that artist, and then through other artists that they know, or other artists that are on that record label, or other artists that are using the same PR company. Mm-hmm. When we can earn that trust, and I think that's something that we've worked really hard on, are those behind the scenes relationships then we get the access to talk to and hang out or ask for one-off quotes for a story that's about something totally unrelated and know that they're going to help us out.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to pick. You're a rock and roll girl.
I am, but when I got pulled in, it was into country music, and I hadn't listened for a long time. There's something about live music. Even if you don't initially
Agreed.
like the genre, you go in, you meet the people, and it's their art, and they love it. And how do you not respect that?
There's even a vibe to a concert that if you're not even into the music, you can
Yes.
get into when you're there for sure.
Yes.
Now, you're hard to pick, dude. I'm going to say country because you talked about country a lot, but I think even maybe you like some hip-hop music too.
Yeah, I've had a chance. Like, I grew up going to high school in the late 90s where there was that hip-hop boom, whether it was the commercial or the underground or the more hardcore and then the more ear-friendly.
But I'm the one you'll find at a Joey Badass show.
And then
Yeah.
Trish will go to those shows, but then I've still, like, I'll put it on and be like, yeah, okay, this one needs to go in that new music spotlight this week. And then the rock and roll, as much as I'm a country guy, they come together so well that I just can't help it. People who know me as a country guy will ask, who's your favorite band? Who's your favorite artist? The Foo Fighters are my favorite band in the world.
Okay, that's not a country band.
I could listen to them all day, and they're not a country band at all. The closest it's ever been is Dave producing an album for the Zac Brown Band. But that's my favorite band in the world, even though I probably listen to more country than anything else.
I'm not, I've never been able to get into, I have a lot of buddies that are like, put on the country station or listening to country music. I'm like, I don't know.
We need to give you a list of artists to
I
listen
know.
to.
The live,
Yeah.
the live
The concerts
feel,
are amazing though, yeah.
They're-
Everyone says that.
We've got some entryway artists for you.
Gateway?
Gateway, yeah.
there's when we talked before about it, feels like on the radio that people aren't playing their own instruments anymore, or that things don't feel the same in rock and roll. There are some country artists out there right now in Canada and in the US. You go to see them live and you would swear you were at a rock show. You'll end up seeing like four guys playing electric guitar on stage, and it
Are
just
they converging?
blasts
Is
through
rock
the
and country
speakers.
kind of converging a
100%.
little bit?
Yeah.
They are.
So I have an interesting country music story. Okay, so I had to be in Nashville, not this June, last June or the June before, I can't remember. And the week before, I'm like, okay, I need to get a hotel in Nashville.
Huh.
So I'm looking in the hotels. I'm like, nothing, everything's packed.
CMA Fest.
I'm like, what the hell? So it's like all we could get was in the most expensive hotel in Nashville. It's like $1,000 for the night, and we had to stay there. There was no choice, and a cot with a single bed. Okay, so I'm like, what the heck's going on in Nashville? We roll in, and the place is packed, and it's the country music festival. Okay, now we didn't get tickets to go to the show. Once we got there, we just totally got swept up in the vibe. But I'll tell you this, you couldn't swing a dead cat. I could take you and spin you around in circles in Nashville, and whatever bar you walked into would be the best music in Toronto that night for sure. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
What is it about Nashville? What's going on there?
It's been going on forever. That's why they call it Music City, and
Okay.
it doesn't have to be country music. They're
Oh, it was everything. You could get everything there.
and they're on the rooftops, and they're in the
Everywhere.
restaurants, and they're on the street corners.
There's that one main strip that goes down to
Yeah.
the river, and it's like
Yeah.
every single bar is like, and the guy sitting outside playing the guitar is amazing.
Yep.
The lady in the airport is amazing, musician. It's pretty nuts.
It's a ton of talent down there.
It's the story that you've seen in movies your entire life about an actor or an actress moving to LA, some small town kid that's probably got some talent that was really good in their drama class in high school that moved to LA to make it, or that moved to New York to be in the theater.
Sure.
They're all going to Nashville to
All
make
the
it in
musicians
music.
go there.
And
really.
all the writers. And all the writers.
So they're living there, they're staying there, they're working
And
as waitresses.
They're
and
coming
things to
back
do
and
the thing.
forth from Canada. Yeah.
Really? Wow. Do you guys ever go there much?
I've been.
I have yet to make my first trip.
Oh,
it is
the
the very
what?
first thing. It's the very top thing on my bucket
Leave
list.
here,
is to
drive
get-
there.
Yeah.
So let me talk a little bit about when you started. You said you were a mix of everything.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you get into web? Are you a web developer? Or?
No, I worked at some companies that were very content driven. So I learned a little bit about some online stuff and some WordPress backend and just learning how to do really basic things. When this whole thing started as the reviewsarein.wordpress.com, the freest of the free platforms that were available, it was plug and play. There was nothing custom except for putting the colors I wanted on it. I didn't have a logo. I didn't have anything. It was, let's just put some stuff up. The oldest post barely had an image in them. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just writing because I knew how to write. And I knew
What did
that
you learn how to write?
I started writing when I was young. So everything from like the kid, I was a small town kid who wondered, what my creative outlet was, and it was writing. I wrote all the bad teenage poetry that you've ever heard a 15-year-old boy write, and shared
Like
some
love
of that
poetry?
around. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, love and like what is like the angstiest
Emo.
emo stuff, and even that was influenced by music. Then, before I ever knew that music was going to be part of anything that I did for a living or even seriously, I had friends that would be like, "Oh, I know who you were listening to when you wrote this. Like, I know you were either listening to like your Nirvana CD or like your old Rancid CD, or where you were listening to Garth Brooks. Like, they could just tell based on what I had written." Yeah.
Wow. And how did you get into photography?
I had a friend invite me on a photography adventure trip. I had been blogging for the place where I worked, and I knew about the back end. And they took me to Costa Rica for 15 days and handed me a top-of-the-line Canon camera and lenses and said, "We're going to teach you how to use this." And that's how I got started.
So both you guys are kind of self-taught, not
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Wow, that means you went to the school of hard knocks, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that I've pulled. I took public relations in college, so there's a writing component there. But what I feel like I use more in our work on the website from what I learned in PR was the relationship side of things, not so much in the how to write something, but how to communicate and how to work with people. So like we've learned things over the years, but yeah, a lot of it was like, okay, what do I already know and how does it work with what we want to do?
And then you just continue to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. What's the biggest challenge been so far?
The very first, it was the first big challenge was getting access to the artists and to the music. It was how do we get our foot in the door to cover live music, and from covering live music, being Trish in the pit with her camera and me writing reviews after, how do we turn that into backstage interviews? How do we turn that into an interview to go with an album release?
Who opened the door for you guys first? Who was the first person to open the door and say, "You know what, get in here, you son of a gun, you're too persistent"?
Our first big one with anybody major at radio wasn't because we were so persistent. It was right place, right time.
Oh, I remember that.
Okay, so
Great story.
we went to Boots and Hearts. I started going year one, which was 2012 in Bowmanville when I was at the old Mossport racetrack.
Okay.
2014, we were there. It was my third year and Trish's second year with the camera. And the festival started on Thursday night. There was a Thursday night kickoff show. And then the whole weekend, Friday, all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We got there real early on Thursday. Parked the car. We're hanging out. Saw some radio people that we knew, some other media people backstage waiting for the gates to open. And ended up hopping on a golf cart to head over to Brett Kissel's tour bus.
Okay.
Where he was doing some interviews that were already pre-scheduled. His whole day was supposed to be booked. We were just going over to hang out with the people we knew backstage. And his guy came off the bus and looked at me and said, "Yeah, Brett's got some time in 15 minutes. Do you want to talk to him?" And Trish...
No, I'm confused right now.
Yeah, so we were like, okay. So Trish put the battery in the camera, and I pulled my notebook out, and we wrote questions as fast as we could. And 15 minutes later, we were on the bus
Doing an interview
with Brett Kissel, and then we talked to him 2 years ago in London at Canadian Country Music Week.
Cool.
And he we talked about that, and he's like, yeah, I remember being on the bus. Like, and we hopped up and we showed him a picture, and that was kind of where it started. And once people were able to see that interview and have it go with the rest of our coverage from that weekend, at Boots and Hearts, we've never done a weekend where we haven't done more interviews every year than the year before, and things like that. Yeah. And Way Home was the same, and we do them all year now.
Wow, that was a big one. What was your favorite interview of all time?
Favorite interview of all time?
It's hard now. How many have you done? Hundreds?
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds. It's hard to say because like each one is unique and individual, and I love the stories. I love when they open up to us. I loved one we did at the CMT Fest, which only happened 1 year in Kitchener, with Kira Isabella. And I don't know if she had extra time on her hands, but she was so flexible, and we had her like lying down on things, and she was just amazing and receptive to us, it's great.
Cool. What do you guys? Is it you guys flying on planes, or are you just doing Southern Ontario?
We've just done a lot of Southern Ontario so far. We do have a photographer, Sydney, who works with us, who lives in Calgary. So we've covered the Calgary Stampede the last few years in a row.
Is that a big music scene as well?
Yeah,
there's
it's not just country anymore too. Last year she covered the iHeart Radio Music Fest. So it was Fifth Harmony and Iggy Azalea and a lot of groups. That way Scotty Hellman was out there that last year. And even at the Stampede now, there's a lot of non-country. So we've got kind of across all genres, but to be able to put it in that city too, in that market, that Western Canada market, and grow that a little bit has been nice.
I think people are looking for a party, you know that? I think, so I'm 40, I'm going to be 41 in a month. I still like to party a little bit, right? And I think the Calgary Stampede has evolved a little bit because people are looking for a party, whether they're cowboys or not.
Yep. And
it's a good party. So I think the music follows it, and people say, hey, why don't we put a little rock show on too? Because we got a mixed crowd out there. And, is there any hip hop at the Calgary Stampede yet?
I'm trying to think in my head of the acts. There are some.
Iggy Azalea's.
Well, that wasn't the Stampede though. That was at iHeart. There have been some opening acts that are in that kind of new hip hop genre where it's that pop hip hop crossover. So you're going to get flavors of hip hop, but you might not get like a straight hip hop show at the Stampede because they do a lot of 2-act nights, right? So they'll do an opener and then somebody that from the radio on a major label. So that's the way that works. And then the biggest concerts of the week are at the hockey arena. And this year it was, I think, Luke Bryan and Brad Paisley. So they go all out. They've had Garth was there for their 100th anniversary a few years ago. So
are you really on a first name basis with Garth Brooks, or are you just saying
that's my dream? we talk about best interviews and dream interviews, and I'm not even sure that Garth Brooks is on my dream interview list because he might be the guy that I don't know what to say to.
Come on, man.
But
You're a professional.
But I would talk to anybody who wanted to talk about what he has meant to their career.
Okay.
I could do a documentary just talking to other people about him.
Okay.
Because he was that guy for an entire generation.
He's just a guy though at the end of the day. I bet you
he
just
really
a regular
feels like
guy.
it. He really feels like just a regular guy.
I bet you if you met him, he would just be like a normal guy like me sitting here just, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
We want to talk about music?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people in the country music scene they have to be down to earth or they're not going to be liked.
There's a lot of that
prima donna stuff. I mean, maybe some of the ladies, maybe there's that. I don't know.
No, it's not something that you see very often, and they treat each other like family.
Yeah, I get that feeling from the community.
Like family where you might not get along with your cousin or your brother all the time, but they're still family.
Sure.
You go to an award show, whether it's the Ontario Country Awards or the Canadian Country Music Awards, and almost to a person, men and women in bands and solo artists, they're like, I really just can't wait to see the guys I haven't seen in the last year.
And you feel like that's authentic.
Oh yeah, they just want to hang out and drink and listen to someone else play music so they can hang out and talk about their kids and their life.
I find a lot of artists are like that. They want to listen to music, and a lot of times if you ask them out of the blue to play, they kind of feel a little awkward about it. I don't know. You ever noticed that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, they're kind of like, well, it's not my show, it's his show. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I get that a lot. I find that a lot. I mean, you guys would know more than me. Do you have any competitors?
Yeah, the space is getting more and more crowded, which is both great because it means that people are paying attention to music. It's hard because it means that we've got to make sure that we're always getting better and working harder to put out great content and not just put out the same content as someone else. I think that even in our circle of competitors, people are doing different things, so it allows for an avenue at least for everybody. But to me, it's almost funny in that when I decided that music was probably the way to go with this thing, it came down to music and sports. And the reason I picked music is because sports was such a flooded market that there was no way I was going to get in as just a dude who didn't have a newspaper behind me.
Yeah.
And now music has become almost as crowded as I thought sports was back then.
What's the next move?
More new content, more multimedia, more interviews, more special features. We started writing some long form features last year that were a little bit more in-depth in story. They weren't about an album and they weren't about a song or a tour. They were just about the artist, which I really liked, the storytelling aspect of it. So to do more of that with more artists that want to open up and across genres and tell stories, if we can do that for them, then I think we'll always have a place.
What social media platform are you guys on? Are all of them?
Yeah, we
all of them.
Almost.
We focus on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to different degrees and for different reasons, because we're able, like we have Trish shooting at so many shows and Sydney out west, and then me when we really need somebody and those two aren't available. Instagram's great because we have photography all the time that we can either share in the moment or share later and be like, hey, remember this cool thing. Facebook, we're sharing out all of our posts because we can kind of do that, look at what we were at, and here's the great preview image, and we can tag everybody. And on Twitter, we get a lot of great response from fan communities and from the artists themselves.
The artists tweet back at you.
Or share the stories or anything that way out, cool. So that whether it's a preview or an interview that we did with them or coverage of their show, we see a lot of interaction with the artists on Twitter.
Has anyone tried to buy your business?
Not seriously, and not in the last few years. I talked to somebody a long time ago, but it was never. It wasn't a thing worth selling at that point, and it hasn't come up since.
Why have you been successful? This is a tough space, man. Like if there's one thing I wouldn't try to do, if someone said to me, "Go write about music," what's made you successful here?
I think that if there were three things: persistence, and that we consistently put out content, whether it's a big news week or a slow news week or festival season or not, or there's an album to write about, we will create content. There will be something for somebody to read, and there will be something about somebody.
So you're reliable.
Yeah.
To your audience, okay.
We're authentic in that we're going to tell you about music we want you to listen to. Now, there are people who have come at me because they think that we're not authentic because we don't put any bad press out.
I've had that as well.
But my thought on the internet and bad press for as long as I can remember is that there's enough of it out there already. You don't need me to write an article telling you why I don't like an album when I can write an article telling you why I do like a different album.
Right.
And then the third thing is the relationships. We've worked really hard to be good to the artists that are good to us, be good to the labels that are good to us, to the PR teams, and having those relationships gives us an opportunity at more content.
So authentic, reliable, and then protecting, being, you hear the stories about the writers that used to travel on the bus with the hockey players.
Yes.
Right, and they, if the guy got drunk and got arrested or whatever, they would cover it up. It's the opposite now. The first thing they're going to do is take out their camera and take a picture of the guy, which is why they're not allowed on the bus and they're not allowed to hang with the players. And it's kind of like they lose touch with the people and you lose touch with them. So that's what you're trying to protect, I guess.
Well, and I mean, if something big were to happen and we were right there, then we would have to make a call about what we were going to say about it. Or
what's big?
If someone were to get arrested, if someone were to jump off the stage and punch a fan. If someone were to
not that happen,
there was an example that didn't get reported, but there was a festival where an incident occurred where there was a reporter from the local news who had to leave the pit because we were told if we shot what was happening, we were going to be removed. And
so no pictures.
For her, as an actual reporter at a newspaper, she had to step out and do her job, whereas the rest of us waited till the end, and it was resolved, and it was not well reported.
It wasn't. That's one of the ones where our decision became: do we report on this? Air quotes news item, or do we report on the music that we came here to cover? It was a side story. It was a side story. It had nothing to do with the band on stage. It had nothing to do with the festival itself. Oh. Somebody did something that, yes, caught the attention of everybody in the crowd.
You're an alternative press. That's what it is.
Yeah, yes. And so I'm not here to.
Nobody's firing us if we don't write about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have an editor saying, "Get in here, Josh and Trish. Get in here. What the hell are you guys doing? Right. How come I didn't see a story about he was using cocaine or whatever it is at the show? Yep. Everyone else heard about it, but you guys, we heard about it, but we didn't want to report it. Yeah. Oh, you're fired. You don't have any issues like that at all. That's the good thing about being an entrepreneur. What's the bad thing about being an entrepreneur, guys?
It's on us. There is nobody opening the door for us. It's us knocking on doors or us answering when somebody knocks on ours.
Yeah. What's coming out new? What's new and exciting right now in the music business? Upcoming bands. If I might want to take my wife dancing, what should we do?
Toronto is still really fun at a lot of the traditional venues that you've known for years, like the Horseshoe, who just celebrated, what is his 70th anniversary last year?
Something crazy like that.
There's the Cameron House.
It's still great. The Cameron House is super laid back. You want to just go for a beer, you can sit in the front room and there's music on the stage, or there's concerts in the back. The big halls, so at the Danforth and the Opera House, they're still filling all the time.
Lee's Palace, if you're looking for some rock, they've always got a great rock show, and you're not likely to find a cover band there.
Okay.
And then the big tours still come to Toronto. The country world's a little bit different, but in the rock and roll and in hip hop worlds, Toronto is still where all those shows are going to come, right? The Foo Fighters just played the Rogers Center.
How old are they now? They got to be in their 50s now, no?
They're in their late, I think Dave's in his late 40s, and the rest of the guys are too, and they've all got kids, and things are all
you on
different.
a first-name basis with Dave?
If there was anybody in the world that I ever wanted to be on a first-name basis with, and I
thought
feel
it was
like
Garth Brooks.
I've consumed, no, Dave is still at the,
He's
Dave
got
Grohl.
dozens of those guys.
Don't tell Garth.
Don't tell Garth, but it's Dave. And don't tell Dave, but it's Garth.
Yeah, I bet you got a ton of other guys like that. Give me some insider stories. Give me something that you wouldn't put out there. You don't have to say who the artist is. Give me a little tidbit here.
We talked with an emerging artist once, I remember one summer, a couple weeks after Boots and Hearts had wrapped. And he had been there to play a small stage and play as a backup instrumentalist for another artist. And he told us his party stories from that weekend.
Okay.
Waking up in the campground, like going as an artist and waking up in the campground and stuff like that. And it was great to have a laugh with him, but we were there to watch him play a show that night. So at the end of the day, when we were writing up the show, it was about the show, and that guy had a lot of fun, and it was cool to talk to him. And when we see him again, that's not information that I'll ever bring back up with him unless he brings it up first. But I know that he is just a good time, like down home, small town dude.
Sure.
And I know where a conversation might go with him because it went that way that one time.
Where are you from?
I grew up in and around Port Hope, Ontario, so just over an hour the other side of Toronto.
Repeat that question.
Okay. Sorry. What happened there? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in and around Port Hope, Ontario, so right on the 401, about an hour east of Toronto, and then out in the rural communities around town.
Okay, cool. And you?
I grew up in Toronto, so I was born and raised in North York and
Where in North York?
Finch and Islington.
Okay, on the other end of North York.
Yeah.
You're still in North York right now.
I
by
am
the way.
not. I'm in Parkdale now.
No, you're in North York right now.
Oh.
This is the other side of the tracks, right? So
Yes,
this
it
is the North
is.
York on the other side of the 404.
When I see Steeles, I think Markham, but you're right.
This is North
You're
York.
right.
Yeah, I grew up on this side of 404, so I kind of grew up Scarborough. But really, I was in North York. But North York is on the other side of the 404 for most people, yeah. All right, guys. What else? What would you ask if you were interviewing you? I'm going to ask both of you this question.
Wow, I mean, the ones that we get from friends and music fans and family most often are, do you know this person?
Okay.
Insert big artist name here, or artist they love on the radio.
What's that? Carrie Underwood?
Do you know Carrie Underwood?
Underwood?
On the Canadian side, it's like, do you know Tim Hicks? Do you know Dallas Smith? And I'm like, I know them to say hi, and I know their wife and kids' names, and to
But I
shake
don't
their
act
hand.
like a loser when I'm
But
around
I'm not
them,
like
yeah.
going to text him because, that's not the relationship we have. And we get asked a lot about music. Like, do you like this album? Who should I be listening to?
That's my favorite question.
Those are the ones that we get, and that we're happy to. Sometimes they're not easy to answer, but we're happy to answer them.
Is there a music renaissance happening right now? Is there something going on that's maybe more live shows? Is there something changing? I feel like there was a bit of a wasteland between, say, after the grunge era ended.
I think so, and I think part of it is that people are more interested and it's more accessible, and the fans now have access that they've never had before. The social media has brought the artists out into the open, and a lot of them are embracing it, and it's become part of their persona, and they interact with those fans. And that interaction brings people out to shows. And it's the coolest thing when you're at a show and you can see the artist and he's like, you're this person from the internet. I talked to you today. And the fan is blown away that the artist knows.
I feel like there was a time when, from Napster, say, until about I don't know, Spotify or something like that, where nobody knew how they were going to make any money. And I was talking to this independent artist. She's like, if you get 1 million plays on Spotify, man, it's only $2,000.
Yeah.
Like 1 million plays is a lot of plays, man.
Yes.
And they get like $2,000 or $4,000 or something like that.
They need to tour. It's the only way to make money. They need to tour.
Everything that we've talked to people and heard stories and read stories by other journalists and in major publications is that the industry flipped. It used to be that artists would go on tour to sell an album. Listen, to go see my concert and buy this album because it's got 14 tracks that you want to hear on it. Now people put out albums and singles, EPs. Like if you look at a lot of artists now, they're releasing four song albums.
Sure.
Or digital singles all by itself, just one song at a time. And it's Come See Me on Tour. Because they're getting paid to play those live shows. They're not selling records the way they used to. They don't get paid for Spotify spins the way they used to get paid when you sold an album.
So they're getting paid for tickets, and they're getting paid for merch that sells at those shows, and they're getting paid for meet and greet opportunities that the fans are eating up and loving. It's access like they've never had before for maybe $100.
Seems like a lot of money to me, $100 though.
Well, to a lot of people.
I paid a heck of a lot more to see Guns N' Roses right up front thing. It was a hell of a lot more than that.
And how was it?
Was it worth it? It was good. And Slash was there and Axl were together again, so it was good. I actually saw them in Las Vegas without Slash. And it was good too, but it was a lot smaller venue.
Yeah.
It was in the Hard Rock in Vegas, and I think it maybe fit 500 people.
We love small venues.
And there was, even though, it was weird because out of the blue that night, Duff McKagan showed up to play.
Wow.
And it was like super cool vibe in the place because nobody, it was just supposed to be Axl.
Yeah.
So, or maybe that was part of the kick of the show. You never know with Vegas, right? Maybe he shows up every night on a shift. But yeah, it was cool. So yeah, it costs money to go to shows, but if they're good, they're worth it.
Absolutely.
100%. It's live shows are always about the special moments. Right? And every fan might take home a different special moment. If you have a favorite song in the world and it's by the artist you're going to see tonight, if they play that song, that's your special moment.
But how disappointing is it when they don't play the song?
But then you wake up with a different song in your head. It's like when I see live music, I wake up with that artist in my head the next day.
Okay, so I took my kids. My kids love Bon Jovi. Okay, and I like Bon Jovi because it's
those
clean.
are good kids.
Yeah, they're good kids. No, but it's also like Bon Jovi. You're not going to get the swear words or a lot of the stuff you're going to get with some. Yeah, it's safer,
rock and roll.
Right? So when you're kids, you're like, let's listen to Wanted Dead or Alive. Yeah, it's still hard and cool and all that, but there's nothing that kids shouldn't hear in that song really. But I took him to the show and Richie Sambora wasn't playing for some reason. They got into, I guess, been into a scrap or something's going on between the two of them. And I had this feeling like he kept playing. He didn't play like the 80s and 90s Bon Jovi stuff. He played Living on a Prayer and he played Bad Medicine, but that was it.
Well, he has put out a lot of music since then.
Yeah, but come on, John.
Yeah.
We all know what we came here to hear.
Yeah,
it's true.
It's hard to.
But is that a money thing? Because he has to pay somebody to play those songs, or how does that all work?
I don't know. I guess it would depend for
I don't think so.
different artists. I guess it depend on who had the rights to the songs, but I can't imagine
the
the live
band
play.
has that.
Yeah, depends. Yeah.
I think to me, a sense that because I saw him when I first got married in 2003. My wife was 8 months pregnant, and we were at the what's the one downtown, the amphitheater?
Yep.
And it was a beautiful
Budweiser stage.
The Budweiser stage,
whatever it's
now,
called.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what is that. But my wife's there. She's 8 months pregnant, and they played like basically all their great songs, and it was a great concert. Someone got on stage and asked this girl to marry him on stage. It was really cool. It was
love
really
proposals.
Yeah, sure. Bed of Roses. Yeah, he's going nuts. Why is it that is there? I just going to ask this again. I want to be sure. Like, you look at like Geffen, for example. David Geffen owns a lot of music. Right? Do they have to pay him every time they play those songs live?
I don't know about.
Well, I know David's
live.
dead, but Geffen Records.
I don't know about live because some of my favorite moments live are covers. I'm a sucker for a cover song, not a cover band.
As long as it's mixed in with their originals, and one or two,
and you play a couple covers that you're like, I had no idea they were going to play that. And in the country world right now, it's amazing because we're in a generation now, we talked about Spotify and Napster even and things like that. We're in a generation of teens into adults who didn't have to grow up listening to one radio station and one kind of music. They grew up online listening to whatever music they wanted.
That's a great point, actually.
So you're going to see a country artist. So Dallas Smith, we're getting ready to see at Boots and Hearts, and I was writing about him this week and writing about the rock and roll side, because he was the lead singer Default in the early 2000s on rock stations all over the place. And he'll come out in the middle of his set and play Wasting My Time, which was Default's biggest hit. His country crowd will go nuts. And a lot of people are like, okay, but it's still a Dallas Smith song.
Sure.
And then he'll play, and I don't know if he does it anymore, but he used to play Imagine Dragons' Radioactive. And the crowd gets even louder because they know that song. You're at a country show, the crowd goes nuts when you play that rock and roll song, because for
20 years ago, he might have gotten booed for something like that.
He might have got booed off the stage.
Yeah.
Well, and then for me, it's like my favorite cover is Imagine Dragons doing Taylor Swift's Blank Space.
Okay.
And it's amazing.
I think one of the best bands is that Boyce Avenue on YouTube that does all covers. You ever heard those guys?
Yeah. Yeah.
They make tons of money. Eh? They're one of the biggest YouTubers in the world. I think they make like $3 million a year off YouTube. But they do great versions of songs, man. I mean, I happened upon them one day. I can't remember. I'm like, I'm not against covers, but I just don't always want to hear covers when I go out. Yeah. But I see there's a lot of that now. Whew. Did I ask you what your favorite band was?
I don't have a favorite band.
Oh, come on.
Nope.
Favorite song?
Nope.
She won't answer, but I will tell you
You're Foo Fighters.
Last year when we were at Way Home, Imagine Dragons headlined, and it was the second time she saw them, but the first time she got to shoot them. She saw them when she see them, Rochester or Buffalo once before.
Buffalo. In the 500s.
So she drove to Buffalo with a
there.
friend to see Imagine Dragons, and then got to see them for the second time at Way Home, and got to be in the pit with her camera to see them play their first 3 songs, and came out more awestruck and just overcome with how cool it was to be that close, to do her job and see a band that she loved that much.
Okay, I cried in the pit, and I wasn't the only one.
The Imagine Dragons set was something that I haven't seen for her to watch a band.
That's an interesting band because that guy he's sick, isn't he?
He's not sick anymore.
Okay.
He's been taking really good care of himself. He's got a new trainer. He's got a new diet going on.
Yeah, he looks
and
super fit actually when you see him.
Super fit this year. But he's very political, and there was a lot of bad stuff going on prior to Way Home where we saw him, and he was addressing it outright, and he was talking about
like
community.
It when artists do that, though.
It worked in this case, though. It really, really did, and everybody was on board. And it felt genuine.
I feel like sometimes hey, shut up and play now, okay, buddy? I don't need you to tell me how to vote. Come on, man. I kind of don't like that. I get a little bit iffy.
Well, yeah, he wasn't telling people how
Not
to
because,
vote.
even if they agree with me, you know what I mean? In my I feel like
but
I'm
he
not
was
here
just
for
talking
that.
about violence and community, and it was one of those things where you're in a space with 35,000 people. You want people to be kind and gentle.
Depends on what the issue is, you know.
True.
And especially, you know, I kind of get a little bit, even if I agree with what they're saying, I feel like I'm not here for that, man.
There's a line. If you can be quick and you can be relevant and then you can get back to a song, then you're in good shape.
Yeah. I really like the version of Thunder that he did kind of acoustically. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah, I've seen them all.
That's so good,
so,
isn't it?
Yeah, it might be in my top 5 favorite
The acoustic one where they have
Yeah.
the drum is just the little things on the end of the
Yes.
drum, and it's like, it's so good. It's way better than the original one. I think so anyway.
The connection it's more genuine. It's more direct.
He's got that little mini thing going and that, and he kind of plays it. He does the introduction at the beginning. That's pretty awesome. That's the power of YouTube, too, to connect artists and that to the people. So what's in the future with the music business? Where do you see this thing going? Is there convergence of the different types of music into one? Is everyone going to like the same kind of music?
No, fans are always going to love the things they love and rally against the things they don't. Some fans. In country music, we see it a lot. This is not what country music is. This doesn't sound like country music. And there are all kinds of arguments where like the country music that someone loved in the 90s that they're standing up for right now sounds nothing like the country music that their grandparents listened to.
That kind of sounds like the folk music thing from the 70s when people were like, you can't plug in, man.
Well, it's like rock and roll.
Bob Dylan sold out, man, he plugged in.
Yeah.
Rock and roll in the 50s. It's a cycle, and everybody's parents have that. This, like, you can't listen to rap music. It's terrible.
Sometimes it is, though.
Yeah, but you can't.
I like rap music.
You can't tell your kids what to listen to.
You know what? I think rap music was funner in the 90s? Is that a safe way to, like in the 80s you had NWA and that kind of stuff were a little bit rough, but then I think
It was fun,
Biggie and Tupac said
yeah.
let's make music for white people or something like that, and they came up with a ton of fun songs. And now it's kind of, I don't know if it's darker now or went through I don't know.
I think that's a generalization.
Is it a generalization?
I think that
Maybe I know nothing about it. Shut up, Culligan. Stop talking about rap music.
I think that the part of it is that, and I'm no expert when it comes to rap or hip hop, but a lot of it got back to the political side that it was in the 80s, right? When it was a bunch of guys and girls that grew up in not great situations that realized that their only voice to speak out and fight back was through their music. And then you see someone like Kendrick Lamar drop an album like Damn and win a Pulitzer Prize. And he could have released it 6 months later.
I think music's been that for everybody, for all humans, though, in a way. It's a way to have a unified voice, in a sense.
But if you're looking for the difference between Nelly and Will Smith in the late 90s and hip hop now, Nelly and Will Smith, all they were trying to do was make fun music, and it was hip hop, and it was legit hip hop.
That's why I said it was funner.
It was a whole lot of fun, and
wasn't
now
heavy.
Well,
they're starting to go
I think
back.
there's still a genre out there that we aren't necessarily aware of, and that's the thing with the top 40 radios. You're never going to hear that music on there, on those stations that you're listening to. I covered a show that I was invited to, The Hoodie, who I'd never heard of. The show was sold out. The girls were going wild, and it was pop rap. Didn't even know that was a thing.
It's a thing?
It's a thing. And it was fun, and there was dancing, and it was a little bit explicit
Music
fun.
Yeah, explicit for, is it young, or are you talking about women, or are you talking about girls? If you say girls, you mean like 20s?
Well, it was not an all ages show, so it was 19
It was an
plus.
18, 19
So what was
plus, yeah.
explicit about it?
The lyrics were explicit.
Oh, okay, a lot of swearing, a lot of
I may have
mother-effers.
had underwear thrown at me to pass over
Okay.
while I was in the pit.
Okay.
That may have been highly encouraged by him.
A buddy of mine and I were talking, so he's got 2 sons. I have 4 kids. I have 3 girls and a boy. We're saying, what's more powerful to get the ladies? Is it music or sports? And I think a good rock and roll star is going to win every day over an athlete.
Music is still more accessible.
I don't know. Give me a hockey player.
I know. It's a tough call. Like, what should you get at? Both. A hockey player.
Chad
both.
I was
Brownlee.
gonna say we know some
Yeah.
we know some artists who were drafted as hockey players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Do you do karaoke, man?
I haven't quite as much, especially since the baby, but it was something that I did for a long, long time.
What's your favorite karaoke tune? What do you like to rip out there?
I still love to sing The Killers.
Okay.
And Everlong. If I'm going to sing
Okay.
a Foo Fighters song, I'll sing Everlong.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your favorite karaoke tune?
I do not sing karaoke.
Come on.
I have one karaoke song that I sang with Josh on
Yellow
his birthday.
Submarine.
No, it was a duet. It was
It was Dierks Bentley and Miranda Lambert.
no Keith Urban
Keith Urban? I
and
don't know.
Miranda Lambert.
She sang karaoke
We Were
once
Us.
for my birthday. That was my birthday present.
It was
That was
horrible for
That was
me.
it. She never did it again.
You got to practice. That's the thing about karaoke. You got to practice in the shower so that when you
I
get
sing
so you
at
have a
home
full
all the
repertoire
time.
out.
I sing at home all the time.
Got to put it out there.
Yeah.
You know what's weird in Asia? You do karaoke the other way. So when you're in North America, you go to karaoke, you go on a stage and you stand in front of everybody singing. But in Asia, you go into a little room and you stand beside them and you all sing it together.
I've
It's a
done
totally
the
different
room.
vibe.
I've done it that way
Yeah.
too, and it can be a lot of fun if you're in there with your pals and you just want to joke around. But I find that everybody's having more of a laugh
Oh.
Yes, when you're up on stage.
in the the
in the
rooms.
room.
Everybody's
room.
having a laugh. When you go on stage, you want people are like, all right, I'm going to sing and I'm going to show these people
Yeah.
some fun. Like I'm going to show off a little bit.
I hate a karaoke show off. I
There's-
hate that. I want to
there's
throw
a difference
popcorn at
between
them.
there's a difference between a show off and someone who wants to sing a song well. I
Yeah,
think.
sure.
I was
But-
going to say, it's like when I did the room karaoke, what I discovered was that all of my friends are super amazing singers, and I didn't want to open my mouth.
Oh, that's what it's
Yeah.
about, though.
I needed,
You're no
I needed
fun.
someone
I'm not hanging out
else with
with
me
you.
who could not sing. And we do have one friend, and he was at your birthday, and that was Dan. And he sang before me, and I love Dan. He doesn't care that he's bad.
There's nothing worse than like some guy goes up there and does George Michael's Faith and sounds exactly like him. And
You're next.
Yeah.
next we have Michael, who's going to do whatever song I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm not here. Whew. All right, man. What else? What advice do you have to give for people that want to be an entrepreneur, Josh?
If you've got to want it, and put the work in. Whether you're going to do something like we do, where you're creating content, and content creation is all over the place right now. I've talked about this before with other people, and you've got to do the work. You've got to create the content. You can't just talk about wanting to do it. You've got to do it. There are a lot of people who are great idea people, and I feel sometimes like I get stuck in I have this idea, and then I never do it. You've got to pull the trigger. You just got to do it.
I'm going to say, just do it. Do you want to work for somebody else for the rest of your life? Are you happy with that? Does that make sense to you?
For some people, it does.
Does it?
Yeah.
I think the vast majority of people are better set to be employees. I think so.
Okay. I think if you're
I think
not.
you know too.
And I think you know pretty quickly, and it's worth it.
I just had a guy in here before this, and he runs a site called insaga.com and inhalton.com, and he's got like, you guys maybe you guys should get together and chat. So he does basically the same thing. He does local news for Mississauga, same kind of idea, advertising driven and so on. And what was I going to say now? Come on, son. You're supposed to be a podcast host here. Looping back, entrepreneur. Oh, he was kind of agreeing to me that a lot of the entrepreneurs we know kind of had that vibe when they were kids too.
Yep.
You know, they were like, I got a paper route, and then I bought my buddy's paper route around the corner, and then, then I started doing this, and next thing you know, I was, I started, college work paintings when I was in university, or whatever it is. You kind of have it in you when you're young. You can see it. Did you guys both feel that as well?
Absolutely.
For me, it was less about I'm going to work for myself one day and more in the I will write.
Okay.
Like I tried to write a novel. I started when I was like 21 and it never got anywhere. I got 30,000 words in and never finished it. But it was like
30,000 words is a lot of words.
It's a lot.
I studied English lit. I wrote a lot of essays, man. 30,000 words is a lot of words.
It's a lot of words. And then I was like, all right, yeah, no, this story just isn't. It fell off to the wayside. But then I started writing other things. I started writing articles about sports and started writing articles about music. And then that's where we got here.
I think a lot of people when it comes to writing specifically, start small first.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to create a narrative that flows through a book. That's a good novel is very difficult to write, to get a narrative flowing through the book.
And it takes a lot of planning. It's not something that is just going to come out of your head. Like I can write a 600 or 700 word piece with very little thought, with the interview questions in front of me and answers.
Yes.
But to get a story from beginning to end and have it all make sense and pull the characters together and keep it interesting, it's
long
tough.
form journalism is a lost art in some ways,
Yes.
man. Do you remember when we were kids and you'd look at it, like you'd pull out a 1977 National Geographic, pages without pictures, dude.
Yeah.
Pages. You pull out a National Geographic now. Yeah. Now here's what I'll say. I've read some of the old ones and the new ones. They would go on. They were filling pages too. Okay. There was a little bit of page fill going on, and the stories now are more concise. But you don't get even SI. Another one is Sports Illustrated. You used to get a lot more in-depth articles in Sports Illustrated than you do now. Yeah. Now it's all snapshot.
People's attention
with a picture.
spans.
You think it's that?
I do.
I think part of it is online too, especially with an outlet like Sports Illustrated, where people don't want to wait once a week or once a month, however often they get it.
Yeah.
They don't want to wait for unless it's a feature that has nothing to do with a specific event.
Yes.
If someone's going to write a long form article about LeBron,
okay,
then you can do that in the magazine. But if somebody's going to write 700 words about the hitting streak or 1,700 words about the hitting streak that some guy's on, that's got to be online this week.
It's got to be today.
Yeah.
It's got to be up right now so I can read about it while it's happening and I'm thinking about it. I don't want to wait for the magazine.
That's the problem with I think newspapers right now, is that they're largely irrelevant by the time they come out. Like if they're trying to do, you either have a choice between doing in-depth long-form journalism or you're tweeting. Because it takes honestly, I don't even really watch the news that much anymore when it comes to, because you don't even know if a story has any legs for 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying?
I
like
do.
By the time you hear a story, you start hearing something about, especially in the Donald Trump era, it's like they report on everything that even is a whiff of a rumor, and then you wait and it's like, okay, this one's 3 weeks. Okay, maybe this thing's got some legs to it, or this person's doing that. Are you guys motivated by money?
No.
No, it's not motivation. It's the thing I got to do to pay my rent.
Yeah, I find a lot of entrepreneurs in your position are exactly like that. It's like I'm here now, I'm doing what I love, and I'm getting paid to do it.
Can I pay the rent? Can I eat? Can we get to the show? That's really all it is.
It's a lot like what you hear about the struggling artist thing, right? Like all the bands
You
we
kind of
cover,
are artists
all
in
the
a way,
all
yes.
the all the bands that we cover when they started out, it was like, am I making enough to pay the rent? Am I making enough to eat?
Sure.
Can I put gas in my car to get to the show tonight, or I can make a little bit more money to do it all again tomorrow?
Yeah. So this is a labor of love. I feel like you guys need to inject it with a little more monetization. You need to make it. I feel like that's the next level for you guys. You know what I mean?
We're at
That's
that.
where we are.
We're at that idea stage where I talked about. Sometimes I get stuck. There are some ideas.
Yeah, I feel like you guys are at that point where it's like I'm ready to make this, like, take this thing down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And really make a run at it. Hey, I really appreciate you guys coming on the show, Trish, Josh.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us,
Yeah, it was
Michael.
fun as heck. Yeah, especially hearing about your entrepreneur. Good luck, guys, with the show.
Thank you.
And with the thing, with the show. We talked about good luck with the website and everything else that's going on.
Thank you very much.
All right, man.
Thanks.
Hey, man, it's time to review us on Amazon. On Amazon? No, man. Review us on iTunes. Oh, I got so many businesses going on. I think it's Amazon. No, I do want reviews on Amazon, but for this podcast, I want reviews on iTunes. So please go to iTunes and review the Get a Grip on Life podcast. We're trying to get some momentum. We're trying to get things going. So that would be a big favor to us. And I'm sitting here in Get a Grip Studios. Go to getagripstudios.com if you want to start your own podcast. Thanks to Trish, Cassling, and Joshua Murray from the reviewsarein.com. Super interesting talking to you guys, man. You know, the music industry, man, that might be the coolest industry in the world. I think it's cooler than professional sports. So it's probably fun to work in it, and I wish those guys all the best. They're on all the social media. They got a website, man. Check them out, reviewsarein.com. And all the links to their stuff is going to be on our website. So check them out. Trish and Josh, thanks for coming on the show. Getagripstudios.com.